They're voices you hear and voices that stay. Baekhyun's voice doesn't just pass through your ears, it lingers, it settles, it finds a place in your chest and refuses to leave. Before the awards, before the sold-out arenas, before the name Baekhyun meant charts, because it was the only thing that made sense. He didn't grow up inside the idol machine. He didn't train for years polishing a version of himself someone else designed. He arrived late, almost too late by industry standards, and still walked straight into one of the biggest debuts K-pop had ever seen. 4 months. That number still sounds unreal. 4 months of training before debuting under SM Entertainment. 4 months to catch up to people who had been preparing their entire youth. 4 months to learn choreography, discipline, media control, survival. But here's what people don't understand. Baekhyun didn't need time to learn how to sing. He needed time to learn how to contain it. Because his voice wasn't raw, it was already formed, flexible, emotional, instinctive. He understood dynamics the way seasoned vocalists do. He knew how to bend a note without breaking it, how to make softness feel intentional, how to make power feel earned. When EXO debuted, the industry wasn't gentle. They were introduced not as rookies, but as a project, a concept, a future investment. 12 members split across borders, languages, expectations. A group designed to dominate 2 markets at once. And inside that massive structure stood Baekhyun, bright, expressive, magnetic. At first, some people underestimated him. Too playful, too expressive, too easy to like. They didn't realize that charm can be armor, that joy can coexist with ambition, that someone who laughs easily can also think deeply. Baekhyun learned fast. He learned how to read a room, how to handle a mic, how to perform not just choreography, but emotion. EXO didn't just perform songs, they carried eras, and Baekhyun became one of the emotional cores of that journey. His voice colored EXO's sound. His tone added warmth, tension, release. As the group grew, the pressure grew faster. World tours, endless rehearsals, expectations stacked on expectations. And somewhere in between, idols were expected to remain grateful, no matter the cost. But Baekhyun was growing, not just as an artist, but as a person who was starting to see the system clearly. The industry loves youth, but it fears awareness, and Baekhyun became very aware. When he stepped into his solo career, it felt like watching someone speak in their own handwriting. City Lights didn't shout, it didn't chase trends, it didn't beg for validation. It trusted the listener. Smooth R&B, controlled emotion, vulnerability that felt intentional, not packaged. Baekhyun wasn't trying to prove he could sing. Everyone already knew that. He was proving he could lead his own narrative. The success wasn't luck, it was alignment. Album after album, record after record, he showed consistency, the kind that scares companies because it proves the artist doesn't need the machine as much as the machine needs the artist. And then there was CBX. Chen, Baekhyun, Seungmin. 3 voices that didn't compete, they complemented. 3 personalities that balanced each other. CBX felt lighter, freer, almost like a side conversation within a loud industry. But CBX was never small. It was strategic. It showed what happens when artists have chemistry, trust, and confidence in their identity. The music was fun, but the message underneath was serious. We know who we are. And that's where things shifted, because SM Entertainment is powerful, legendary, influential, but it is also rigid. Contracts written for control, not clarity. Revenue structures that rarely favored transparency. Creative freedom offered, but only within boundaries the company approved. For years, idols endured it silently, until CBX didn't. When the contract dispute surfaced, many tried to reduce it to drama, but fans who were paying attention knew better. This wasn't noise. This was negotiation. Baekhyun didn't burn bridges. He didn't throw accusations carelessly. He chose his words. He protected EXO. He protected his members. But he asked the question idols are taught never to ask. Where is the fairness? The situation exposed something uncomfortable, that idols grow up. They understand contracts. They learn their value. And once they do, silence stops being an option. Baekhyun's decision to step towards independence wasn't impulsive. It was overdue. Starting his own company wasn't a rejection of his past. It was a commitment to his future, a way to protect his work, his voice, his pace. And even then, he never erased EXO from his identity. That matters. Because Baekhyun doesn't pretend the journey was easy. He acknowledges the pain, the pressure, the moments of doubt. He doesn't romanticize the grind. He humanizes it. Through enlistment, hiatus, uncertainty, he stayed connected, honest, present, grateful in a way that felt real, not scripted. Today, Baekhyun stands in a rare position. Not just an idol, not just a vocalist, but an artist who understands both art and business. He knows when to be soft. He knows when to stand firm. He knows that longevity isn't built on obedience. It's built on self-respect. And as a fan, watching that growth isn't just inspiring, it's personal. Because we didn't just watch him succeed, we watched him become. From a late trainee to a core member of one of K-pop's most influential groups, from a playful presence to a respected soloist, from a company artist to a man who owns his direction. Baekhyun's legacy isn't just in numbers. It's in the way his voice makes people feel understood. It's in the courage to demand better without destroying what came before. It's in choosing growth, even when comfort is easier. Some artists chase relevance. Baekhyun builds permanence. And long after the lights dim, after the trends shift, after the industry reinvents itself again and again, that voice will still be there. Clear, emotional, unmistakably his. And when the screen finally goes dark, remember this. Wasn't just a story about success. It was a story about growth. About a voice that refused to stay small. About an artist who learned when to shine and when to stand up. About someone who didn't let the industry decide how his story should end. Baekhyun didn't just survive this system, he understood it. And then he chose himself. If you've stayed until this moment, you're not just a viewer. You're part of this journey. You watched the evolution, you witnessed the courage, you felt the music the way it was meant to be felt. So now, I want to hear from you. Who should we talk about next? Which artist deserves a story told with honesty, respect, and depth? Not headlines, not rumors, but truth. Leave their name in the comments. And if this video meant something to you, if Baekhyun's voice has ever been there for you in a quiet moment, a hard night, or a chapter of growth, then subscribe. Stay with us, because some stories aren't meant to be rushed, and some voices are meant to last.